Well, that didn't work. I can't tell. That did not work at all.
Trollord Games, join the fray.
Oh, yeah, it's supposed to be on loop. No, I don't want to do that. All right, hold on. We're going to do this. I forgot to put it on loop. So we're going to experiment for a second while people are wandering in. So if I did that, how do you loop this son of a gun? So it showed me one. Loop. Alright, so in theory, yes. So this should be running. I don't know why I did that. Okay, that's what it should be. Nope.
Trollord Games, join the fray.
Okay. A little bit of chaos there, but we're going to work this out. I think I got it now. So next week we'll try it again. Do I have sound? Tim said he can't hear me. I'm not sure if my mic is not muted. Can you hear me, Lord Dalius? I'm not certain I'm getting mic. I think I am. Okay, can't see and hear you now. All right, all is good in the world of trolls. What the hell happened to my desk? Well, that ain't good. Very cool. You are heard. That's good. Yeah, I got I'm trying to figure out how to do all of the intro videos. And I think I figured it out. The challenge will be remembering it next week when I do it again. That'll be the true challenge. How's it going, Mr. Obadiah, Vic, Geek Preacher? Lord Dalius and Commander Pete. How is everybody doing today? Yeah, it's a small miracle we have power. We got about, I don't know what the final was, but it's got to be close to 10 inches, probably 8, 9 inches, something like that. And for Arkansas, especially for Little Rock, especially for my neighborhood, because our power lines run through a gulch that's just filled with a lot of trees. So anytime we get freezing weather like this, branches fall, hit the lines, pop the lines out, and they can't bury these lines because it's too much bedrock back there. They'd have to get so much dynamite that it would be ludicrous. So, yeah, I know. Yeah, what about that'll learn me. Yep, we so rarely get snow. And I was actually talking to my wife. Now, she grew up in Arkansas. I'm an Army brat, so I arrived in Arkansas in my senior year. She has no memory of this much snow hitting the ground. I'm told that 1989 there was a pretty bad year, but this is 10 inches, and they're telling us another 5 inches tonight or tomorrow. I don't know. We're getting more snow. Happy Fat Tuesday. There you go. I think we have a layer of ice, a layer of sleet, and a layer of snow here. And actually, yeah, that's about how it goes. So, most of our water had evaporated when the snow hit, but everything was frozen. So we got pretty good snow. I got out today, and we were able to get around, which is a good thing. 2.5 feet of snow outside. Good God, King Cothar, where are you? Finding below freezing here with sub-zero for the weekend. I tell you, I feel for everyone down in Texas because it's, their power grid's messed up now, and fuel can't get to them, and they can't get fuel, and it's Michigan. There you go. A friend of my daughter's lives in Michigan. It's a lot of snow up there. I have ashes to throw on all of you tomorrow. There you go. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of snow. It looks pretty, it's all right, but it chokes off things. All right, good deal. And down here, we don't really have, in Arkansas, in Little Rock, we don't have the equipment, the infrastructure to deal with it because, we don't get snow very often. So, so there's no reason to actually do that. But there you have it. So we are here for Ask Me Anything on February 16th, 2021. February 16th on 2021. Whatever. I'll just put the date. I can't get a date twice. So I'm Stephan Chenault, President and CEO of Troll Lord Games. If you have any questions about anything Troll Lordish, Kickstarters, industry-wise, shipping problems, whatever, just go here in the feed, and I will do my best to answer. How's it going? 𝚃𝚘𝚕𝚕, I'm not sure how to say it. Hi, Steve. I ran a session last night. Our group is working through A2, the Slag Heap. That's one of my favorite titles, by the way. Davis came up with that. I love the Slag Heap title. They are traveling south into the barren wood and came across a house that Meg built. It was one of those sessions that ended with a cracking scene. One of the 𝚃𝚘𝚕𝚕 had captured the party rogue and was dragging them off into the forest. The party couldn't use weapons, and the rogue was on the verge of death. The halfling bard took things into his own hands and charged after it. That is very cool. I love 𝚃𝚘𝚕𝚕. It's one of my favorite monsters. And we, by some strange fluke, we don't have a picture of it in the Monsters and Treasures. I discovered that the other day. But I absolutely love the 𝚃𝚘𝚕𝚕. I don't know why. I think it's kind of that nice mixture between giant class, troll, ogre, giant, whatever, and an actual monster, which is kind of cool. And it's one of those things as a CK I frequently forget to do, is bring in actual monsters into the game, not just orcs and gnolls and whatever, and other humans, but to bring an actual monster into the game, like a manticore, chimera, basilisk, or whatever. I just forget about them, which I should not do. So do monsters get a bonus to damage based on hit dice or anything like that, or is it just straight dice? I found that the damage output on the monsters is a little like, no, it's straight up dice. It's straight up dice and that. And on that, if you're finding that the monsters aren't doing enough damage, the damage you want to do, I would either bump up more monsters just to increase the tension level of things, or just adding the hit dice. See, that would be tough, because if you're doing, say, a hill giant, I think it's a 12 hit dice monster, 13, 14, whatever, and he's going to do 4d6 points of damage, or 44, whatever it is. If you added 14 to all of those dice, that would be a catastrophe. Now, you could just add 14 to the damage total. That's not a bad way to do it, but I think you'll find if you do that, you're going to suddenly imbalance the other way, where you got 4 or 5 hill giants that are doing, minimum of 16 points of damage, if not a lot more, and that's a lot of damage. I think that if you find that the damage isn't quite getting where you want it to do for the tension level and the challenge level and all that crap, then I would add a little bit. What I would generally do, like if they do a D8, then roll a D4 and make it 6, 7, 8, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So if you roll a 1 on the D4, it's 5. If you roll a 2, blah blah blah, something like that, just to guarantee that you're going to do an increased amount of damage. Personally, what I do when I find that the monsters are not doing enough damage to keep that tension level going, I just add damage to it. Yeah, he does an extra 5 or 6. That way, nothing's pinned down. There's no rule. Yeah, and that's one reason that the damage for monsters is a tough thing to tackle, because once you've laid it out, in the book, that's the guideline, and if you overdo it, you're going to obliterate characters. The Monsters and Treasures of Air has some pretty hefty damage to it, so it's one of those things. So do you ever lower the hit point of your monsters and NPCs when you really bad rolls are destroying? Absolutely. I do it all the time. I'll drop hit points. I will, like if it's a humanoid or human or anything, I'll have them take such a wound that their decks, and I'll give a reason. The shield is knocked aside. You break part of the armor. You cut his arm pretty good so he can't move as fast or whatever, and drop their AC and allow players to hit. I try to keep combat very, very fluid, and I'll change a rule in a nanosecond. And I'll do the opposite too if I find that the characters are hitting too easy. The first 2 or 3 orcs go down, but the other ones have heavier armor. It's harder to hit them. It's one of those things I don't like it when players figure out armor classes and what they need to hit, and it's a natural thing to do. You can't not help but do it. If Dude Man hits when he rolls an 18 and Dude Man misses when he rolls a 17, you kind of know that you need an 18 to hit. But it's one of the things so I'll change things up. I change things up a lot. As a guy who plays a ranger, all monsters should be humanoid and giant. This is a giant class, because then you get your giant bonus against them. That's the way to do it. And that giant bonus is a killer at high levels. It is a giant killer at high level. Todd Ranger's 15th level now. And I don't think he gets, he's swinging 2, and I haven't mitigated it. I always kind of thought that should be 15 points just per attack or per round. But it stands to reason that it's for each blow, but he's doing so much damage against giants, it's absolutely mind-numbing. It's that. I'm currently thinking of going back to actual dice instead of using the built-in roller in Fantasy Ground. What is the built-in roller, rolling them low? That's interesting. Good day. How's it going? Antipodean D20. The Antipodean D20. Why does that sound familiar? Was that a movie? Antipodean. Anti-something. Oh, wait, I'm being reminded of something. We're doing a giveaway raffle later in the show. So stay tuned for that. I have absolutely no idea what it is. So, good luck. I don't know what it is. Yeah, Tim and Chuck, depends on. Or they're whatever. They take care of it. I don't know. So, I don't know how to do it either. So, we're having some issues on D&D Beyond as well. Same here. I really don't like it when they know the AC. I have fun screwing with them over that. We're interesting. I wonder what's going on with the dice rolling there. I had a bad session that resulted in a TPK because I rolled 5 nat 20s over 6 rolls and couldn't hide the results and fudge them. Oh yeah, that's murder. That's murder. It's funny you should mention that, Lord Daly. 2 games ago with this game I'm running on Sundays now, I rolled against one character. Now I'm rolling the dice. Now I'm using dice that came in one of the box sets from the 1970s that Davis had bought 40 years ago. So they're like marbles. They don't really. I have to go grab one. But this thing is rolling so many natural 20s. I think in the course of the evening, which is 2 combats, probably 20 swings, I hit Pete with 6 natural 20s or 5 natural 20s. And it got so ridiculous to the point that I stopped doing damage. I did damage on like 3 of them, and I started wrecking his equipment. I just backed off, and I do that all the time. If I feel like a natural 20 or the dice that I'm rolling is it's going to go too high, I'll even just drop it. They don't even hit, or I'll wreck equipment. But in Pete's, in his kind of sphere, he doesn't like the dice being tipped one way or the other. He wants it to be a natural outcome. So I don't often tip against him. But, the 5 nat 20s, that's a hard thing to do. And I guess in Lord Daly's, if you can't fudge it, you're done. I mean, if it's on the computer, if it's visible, you're done. It's going to do the damage that it's doing. The antipode is what Britain used to call Australia. I feel like there's a joke in there somewhere. Maybe not. I'm not sure. You missed the final part of in my story. The halfling bard decides to try to overbear the wounded Ettercap. I give it a TN of 20. He rolls a natural. Oh, that's awesome. Those are the moments that you want, right? Because the battle's going, everything's turning against everybody, and that natural 20 rolls through and turns the day, or whatever it is, the epic moment. And they're not often, but they happen probably one every 10 or 15 game sessions, maybe 20 game sessions, where something happens that actually the whole tide of battle shifts away. And those are the moments that everybody loves, that everybody remembers. That's badass. That's just badass. And that is where the name comes from. correct box. In fact, that is where the name comes from. I'm in Australia. Did I miss something? Well, there you go. Oh, Australia. I read that as Austria. Okay. The antipodes is what Britain used to call Australia, not Austria. There you go. Makes a little bit more sense now. I mean, it was very, you missed the, correct, I have said of those almost, yes, they're just ridiculous. One of them just keeps rolling and rolling and rolling. The TK screen is integral in the storytelling process. Yes, it absolutely is. Speaking of which, I've got the new paper. I need to test it to see if it's going to work and we can get these damn screens back into production and get these two new covers, the CKG Tribute and the PH Tribute, out on the screen. We had a discussion about whether to roll in the open or not, and they were okay with open rolls. Thankfully, they saw the die rolls and took it in stride. Well, when you see it, it's hard not to. Here's my problem I'm facing. Once again, I really don't like players rolling for finding traps or sneaking around because they know when they fail it. What are your thoughts? Yeah, that's kind of the deal. I toyed for a while there. I rolled their checks behind the screen to see if that, because then they don't know. But it didn't. That goes against one of the things that I don't like to do. I don't like to take dice rolling. Anytime CNC, Castles and Crusades has this philosophy, and I certainly have this philosophy. Anytime a player can roll a dice, they should roll a dice. The CK, GM, they have enough dice to roll, and part of the whole fun of the game is rolling the dice and seeing how, like gambling, you see how the numbers play for or against you. So taking that away is kind of not, I don't know, it's not so cool. So really, I did that for a little bit. I didn't like it. And so now what I do, essentially, if someone rolls, well, they don't know. I mean, I guess they really don't know now when I think about it. If they're looking for a trap and they make a check and they find that something is there, if I want it to be more intricate then it's obvious there's a pit trap, you're going to fall in the pit trap, whatever. Then I let them know there's something odd here. There's something not working here. Something, the wall seems a little bit off, but you can't make out what it is. Whether it's anything or not, you're going to have to do more investigating, that type of stuff. Yeah, so it's one of those things. On the other hand, that's part of the thief and the rogue and the ranger. I think the ranger can actually find traps. Maybe they just set them. I can't remember now. But that you don't want to take that away from them because that is one of their skills that they do, and especially the rogue and thief. And I caution people all the time on that. Those classes, they're great classes, but they start with everything they're going to get just about. They don't get better. They get better at their skills, but they don't get to say at this level I can do this. Their backstab gets better or whatever, sneak attack, whatever it is in the game you're playing. But the thief and rogue for me are, I like the classes. They're cool classes, and they need to be at the table. Someone needs to be playing one because there's traps and there's all kinds of crap you got to find out. But on the other hand, once they get to like 10th level, I think they start getting a little bit bored, especially compared to other players. So now we have some fun role play ahead. Anyone have a good idea for a paladin that needs to atone? There you go. Throw your ideas for an atoning paladin out there. And paladins are interesting. I love DMing paladins, but they're very hard. They're very hard to run at the table. And then if you give them this atonement, if you give them some kind of quest to bring honor back to them or whatever it is, you run into this thing where the quest may go too far and too long and bore the other characters, and then the other characters feel like they're constantly being drugged into this paladin sphere of need. Paladins are interesting. As the antipodes in geography, the antipode, I assume I'm pronouncing that correctly, of any spot on Earth is the point on Earth's surface diametrically opposite to it. A pair of points antipodal to each other are situated such that a straight line connecting the two would pass through Earth's center. Antipodal points are as far away from each other as possible. So is Australia and England, are they actually that, or was it just kind of a sarcastic term, whatever, that the Brits gave the Aussies? And do you ask players for declarations before rolling initiative? And no, I do not. The only time I do that is if their class requires it. For instance, from the Adventurer's Backpack, the Oathsworn, they get at 5th level or 3rd level, 4th level, they get combat combat abilities, extra combat abilities. And they have to declare that before the initiative is rolled. And if they, and Pete's playing that character, and if he does not declare it, then he doesn't get to take, he doesn't get to use that ability during combat. So he has learned very, very quickly to declare that. Other than that, I do not. I kind of want it to be very free-willing, as much free-willing as possible. The Antipodean D20, another Aussie Antipodean here. There you go. There should be an option in Fantasy Grounds to not display your rolls, and you can just, there really should. I didn't know there wasn't one. That's interesting. Open rolls. Oh, sorry. I hope Antipodean. I hope that's correct on my pronunciation. I don't know. Open roller jump. There is such an option, but it is incongruent if you switch rolling modes mid-combat and all that stuff. Let's see. Even if they fail, they still don't know that it's a trap or not. Same here. I don't like taking dice rolls from players. I really don't. It's just not cool. I think you were here in the last time I dropped by. Tim's Cask had players roll a damage. It hurts on a lot of levels, and it's kind of fun at times. Yeah, that's one of those. That's one of those things, because you can't tip it, right? You can't mess with it, and I mess with damage all the time. One of the things I do in my game, this is both. There's a bunch of reasons I do it, but one of the things that I do, if you go negative, there's no healing aside from a heal spell can bring you out of negative. You have to rest 7 days, and then on the 8th day, you can be healed normally. On the 8th day, you'll have 1 hit point. But -1 to -9, you've got to rest for 7 days, no matter what. Now, you can talk or drag yourself around or whatever, but you can't cast spells, you can't really do much. And it's one of those reasons that I watch damage, because, and I do that, there's a bunch of reasons I do that. One, to kind of grind the game into a little bit of reality. You get a huge sword wound, it's going to hurt, you're going to have to rest. But also it eats up a lot of gold. They'll eat up rations, they'll eat up all kinds of stuff, waiting for those 7 days to pass. But especially at low and mid-level, they go negative a lot. So I kind of watch my dice roll, so I'm not obliterating the party constantly. I just call for them, roll a d20 and don't let them tell them why. Now that, King Kothar, I do all the time. Now that's a good comment there, Geek, to handle that. So I will frequently I'll sit down at the table, the session will start, and I'll tell everybody to roll 1, 2, 3, 4 attribute checks, and I'll roll them down. Give me a wisdom check, give me a strength check, and then I just go, and I start playing the game. And later on, when they're trying to do something, I'll pull one of those out, well, this is what you roll, and I'll move on. I do that occasionally. Sometimes I won't use it at all, and it's really just to kind of confuse and baffle players. Sometimes when you try to sneak around in real life, you step on a squeaky board and know you missed it for sure. Maybe when they roll and know they fell, it's one of those situations. Yeah, that's true. For your information, I'm hosting you on my own Twitch channel, Steve. If anyone wants to host Troll Lord, go to the chat function of your own channel and use the command host. So I don't know what that means exactly. But I will say thank you, Antipodean. And Tim and Chuck's going to explain it to me later. I know we host people, so I guess I'm on your Twitch channel. So thank you for that. And everybody, if you haven't already, give us a follow here at Troll Lord, and give the Antipodean a follow too. As always, we're always trying to build these channels and all of this, just a wider community. So the more support we get from you guys, the easier it is for us, and so forth and so on, etc., etc., etc. Hey, what does your Brenner say? What is the movie? Damn it. You step it off. What is that movie? The King and I. Man, that's a great movie. Rangers can find wilderness traps. There you go. I thought they could. I knew they could set them, but I couldn't remember if they could find them. What, like character ideas or requests or what? See, that was for the Paladin. Thank you, Antipodean. Much appreciated. See, I have a new Paladin that just met his god. He's the first follower, so he can't get a high-level priest to cast atonement on him. I would like him on a quest or give him some task or series to atone to for his shouldn't be too tough as he's just first level. Yeah, it's got to be easy at first level. I would make it easy and quick, whatever it is. I wouldn't make it stretch over 3 or 4 game sessions, maybe 2 game sessions. Quests are always cool, but they're so. It's almost the go-to. Maybe a protect a village type thing. Or, I don't know, think something a little bit out of the box where the players have to go do something different than they normally do. They don't have to go retrieve an item. They don't have to go whatever. They have to make certain that they have to guard a pilgrim that's crossing, or show kindness in protecting some inn, where there's goblins in the neighborhood, something like that. Might be a little bit different. Steve, you ready to TPK that group Friday? Yeah, Lord Gazuma. I don't normally TPK, but we'll see. I've got an idea in my head. I probably should not experiment with an online game, but it's rolling around in my head. So I think I may bring that to the table, but I don't know how it will play out. I don't normally do. Only once that I remember, I ran one of my big games at 20-something players at Gary Con 4 or 5, I don't know. And I was in the cafeteria. They put me in this the center thing of the restaurant there, and everyone was at a big U-shaped table and all that crap. But I decided I had this idea that I wanted to experiment with and try. It's the only one of those big games that I don't think everybody enjoyed it. I didn't. I thought it was all off kilter and derailed. So I may not do my idea. I may save it for a later day. Yeah. So we'll see about the TBK. Giant wombat. There you go. Hey Steve, if you have trouble pronouncing it, it's Antipodn, or just call me he, and share that Dr. Pepper. There you go. Wait, is it he? I thought you had a different name. I don't know, man. I can't keep up with anything, and I'm actually forgetting stuff. I don't know. I think actually the workload at TLG, and this is a great thing to complain about. I'm tickled pink about this. The workload at TLG has gotten to the point that I can't keep up with everything. So that's good. I mean, that means we're steaming right ahead, but I'm beginning to forget just little things. I'm having to make more and more notes for myself. Or slay one of who is opposed to, and I see someone said establish a temple. I love that concept. And it doesn't have to be really a giant temple. I'm a huge fan of strongholds, towers, skilled houses, all of that stuff. Anything that your characters bring to the table that motivates them to do something more, I think is great. And to establish a presence is fantastic because it means they've got a vested interest in your game and your game world and all that crap. So building a temple is very cool. I wouldn't make it anything huge. Maybe even just what are those sites called? They're in Europe occasionally where there's just like the statue of the Virgin Mary or a statue of Jesus out on a walking trail. I don't know what those things are called. Those sites are called. But something like that. Some kind of a holy ground, just establish this thing here. That's a cool idea. Roll a boulder uphill. There you go. I like that. Yeah, TLG needs more Opti megafauna. We do, definitely. Man, every time you read about Australia's wildlife, it's insane. How's it going, Bedford? Thanks for joining us. Hey, I think your package went out today. I'm pretty sure it went out today. Question, are you guys going to be selling at GaryCon? I believe so, but of course it's virtual. So there's some kind of vendor hall they're setting up that we're going to be a part of. There'll be coupons, all kinds of stuff. That's been Chuck's for you. He's been putting all it all together, so I'm not sure how that's going to play out. But yes, we will be at GaryCon, and yes, we will be selling. I hope so. If I ever get a chance to play again, I'm going to try to do an undercover paladin, of course, who masquerades as a fighter, searching out cultists of war and duel someday. That sounds cool. So I've got the game I'm running now. We've got he's playing an Oathsworn from Mortalia, and his chosen foe is Orandul. It's very cool. There's a knocking without the door. On your chamber door. So I have my first playtest in an hour. I have the game ready, the questionnaire prepared, and the scenario written up. Any advice you have for me? So yeah, I assume that you're running Castles and Crusades, and I assume it's first level. I would get them into action immediately, I would do 2 or 3 minutes description of what is happening, and I wouldn't spend more than a minute or two explaining the siege engine and how it works, and then get them into some kind of action. And now I prefer when I'm bringing new players into it, or even if I'm running a game that I'm new at, I prefer to do some kind of terrain. Climbing the cliff is a decent one if it's not too high. Swimming a river is my favorite one, simply because there's so many checks and you have so many opportunities. Just because they fail a swim check doesn't mean they have to automatically drown. You can have them do 5, 6, 10 swim checks. It doesn't matter. You can do as many as you want. And the nice thing about the terrain, they're not taking damage, well, unless they fall off a cliff or actually drown. But you can kind of control it a little better, but they're doing a lot of checks. They're quickly learning how to play the game. So anytime I'm introducing somebody to Castles and Crusades, I try to get into action quick. I think a lot of people get easily turned off if the CK is sitting there explaining the rules for 30 minutes. And that goes for any game. Dungeons and Dragons, Swords and Wizardry, Dungeon Crawl Classics, it doesn't matter, whatever it is. If you're going to have to spend an hour explaining the rules, you're going to lose. You're going to lose this. So I'd get them into action fast. Be loose, take your time, come into decisions. If you feel stuck, say yes and move forward. No, yes. Absolutely, Lord Daly. Always err for the yes as opposed to the no. If you're constantly telling your players no, then they end up stop doing stuff. They'll stop trying things because it's just going to be no, so why try? But if you say yes more often, yes, that works. Yes, you can do that. Yes, whatever. Then you're a little better off with it. DM Samuel says, King Cuther, I have a list of names for random NPCs. The players might ask your name. Yes. Let the players have a big win early in the session. That's always a good thing. Pumps everybody up. That names is crazy important. I swear to God. I used Otto for years and years and years. I group it pretty well. Bless a river or a passage. There you go. Now that's a cool paladin thing. That ties right in with my whole river obsession. Now, our group is pretty well balanced, but now that we're 6th level, we're finding we're taking more damage than our cleric can handle. Is there a better way to handle this than have to have everyone huge supply of healing? Yes, that shield. That is a huge problem at any game, and we're actually just on the cusp of that in the game I'm running on Sunday because they've all reached 4th and 5th level. I think one's 6th level, the thief is 6th level, and the damage now is starting to rack up. And they don't have a cleric. They've got the Divine Knight from the Adventurer's Backpack, which can access cleric spells through mana, and he's finding that that's all he's doing at this point. He's just having to use all of his mana to cast these heal spells, which is not helping in a wide variety of situations. So there's all kinds of stuff that I do with that. So one of the things, and this, I don't know what game system you're running. If it's Castles and Crusades, I'd recommend you snatch a copy of the Adventurer's Backpack, but in that gives you all kinds of extra healing stuff. And this sounds kind of nutty, but it actually works pretty well. Bandages can heal 1 hit point when you bandage somebody. You can make another attribute check for them to heal another hit point, so that's 2 after you just bandage somebody. If you bandage 4 people, that's 8 hit points that they've gained. If you have a medical kit, you can get another point on that, so that's like 3. So if you heal 4, that's 12, and that costs no magic, no healing potions. Everyone just got 3, maybe 4 hit points back just from medical kits and bandages. So that's one thing that I do. I have those in there aplenty. One of my favorite items that I don't make it common, but it is a treasure item I give frequently. It's the Nordstone, which is basically this small rock. That if you put it in the stone, it flakes, and if you eat one of the flakes, it heals 1 to 2 hit points. And you can get 2 flakes a day. So if you have like 4 Nordstones, because it'll flake on either side. I think it actually flakes once an hour. If I remember correctly, it flakes once an hour. So in the period of an 8-hour period, you can heal, you can take 2 flakes per, I think is what it is. But anyway, it helps immensely. And it's just one of those things that they can do the combat, get the stone out, and eat it throughout the day and gain hit points back. It's just a nice kind of cheat method that I came up to solve the exact same problem that you have there. I didn't want them with 48 healing potions. Crap drives me crazy. But it's just something a little bit different. It's also why in CNC we allow the illusions to heal, and there's a few other classes that have healing abilities, things like that. Anything that can just add 3 to 4 hit points, a day can heal very, very fast and turn the tide quickly. Check the Nordstones out. Definitely encourage them to get the bandages. Go for it. There you go. I'm more concerned about getting as much useful information out of my players as possible and feedback, as it is a playtest of a product I'm developing using the received engine. Very cool. Oh, well, that's interesting. So you're not so worried about the playtest itself so much as making sure things work. So, we frequently playtest the adventures that we do and the content that we have here. And the big thing that comes down to the playtest is making certain that stuff is written clearly, and that's something that playtesters really can't feed back to you if you wrote it. So if you're playtesting an adventure that you wrote, it's difficult for you to get that, that information back that, oh, this isn't written clearly. I don't know what you meant here. We need to do this, or we need to do that. However, this needs to be reworded. That's kind of a tough thing to do, but that's one of a huge value in playtesting things. Beyond that, play it square as you wrote it. Don't tip any dice. Don't do anything, just because that's what's going to happen. A lot of people don't believe in fudging dice when they're running a game, so just make certain that when you do it, and if it's too hard, ratchet things back. If it's too easy, ratchet them up. Because a lot of people don't. So I do not tip any dice. At the 𝚃𝚘𝚘𝚕𝚔, if it's a playtest, the best thing to do is pick three or fewer things you want to make sure work, and have that happen a couple times in sessions. And that's that it works for everyone. That's a good idea. You give me a couple of ideas. I don't have it on my list. Thanks. Definitely. Are you thinking of a roadside shrine? Yeah. No, I can only think of one in a movie. I can think of the movies. Yeah. Damn it. Yeah, but it's a roadside shrine, essentially. I love the concept of that. That's a cool idea for a paladin. Let's see. I got the email with the tracking. Excellent. I never know if that ever actually works. We get out there, whoever's shipping, and they're sending emails, and I don't know. We have a procedure. I assume it's working. Pick a creature that will be the natural enemy of the believers of the deity, and have the paladin kill 5 of those and put the skulls in the first 5 symbols of that deity. There you go. That's a bloody atonement. Just went on my list. Thanks. Excellent. That's from Geek Preacher. Just went on my list. Wire A13, A17 only contained in Dungeons & Dragons and not available as independent modules. Well, we developed. So those adventures are based on an extraordinarily large map. Now, the map that's in the box set really needs to be larger. It comes with a PDF that you make it bigger. I think it comes with a PDF. You have to buy that separate. Whatever. Well, it's a package deal. Anyway. So we needed that box set of Abstract actually led us to this whole product line, because I love the box so much. Those people were so fantastic to work with, and everything fit in it so beautifully that we retrofitted A0 through A12 into its own box set. But for the Abstract thing, we needed somewhere to put that map, and for a 24 or 36 page adventure, having a large map stuck in the back, it just doesn't work at the retail level. They fall out all the time, or you got to shrink wrap it, and that has a whole, they can't sell it as easily if it's shrink wrap, thing with it, so that becomes a problem. Logistically, it's tougher to put a full size map in a small book. So I decided that I was going to do 5 of these simultaneously, and then just going to go in a box set. And the box set proved, so I love the extra space that's in there. So now you can put all of your Abstract notes in the box set. You got 5 maps to go with it. You got the big book. And going forward, I talked to Peter the other day about Abstract going forward. We're going to do the next A18. We've already started on that. A18 through 23 will also be in one big book. Let's see. Can you go to make a ford the river? Yeah, always ford the river, Willie the Rat. Make a ford on the river. There you go. The scenario is them, I think 𝚃𝚘𝚘𝚕𝚔, this is the playtest. So the scenario is them breaking into a wizard's tower to steal an artifact. There are many ways to get in, but I'm assuming they're just going to try and scale the walls of the gardens. So they'll have to succeed at climbing checks, then go right into combat with the lion who roams the garden. After that, it sneaks past the guards and ducks the sorcerer until they find the artifact. Well, that sounds very cool. Yeah, I would not count on them just climbing that wall. They're gonna just do crazy stuff. But that sounds cool. I like actually straightforward adventures that get you from point A to point B without there being so much fluff. Originally, the adventures I write have too much fluff that goes with them. The playtest is for the third-party siege engine game I was designing. Very cool. Very, very cool. The combat early in the game works well. Get them rolling dice. And Ken, you should throw that stuff up on Discord. Go to Discord, throw that stuff up, comments and whatnot. There's a lot of folks over there jibber-jabbering about this stuff. A combat early in the game works well. Get them rolling dice. Always. Roll the dice. Yeah, just don't ever talk too much in the beginning. Make sure there are at least 3 different ways to get through the walls, scale them, break through, find secret passages, dig under, etc., etc. We are working on the tenants. My paladin is making decisions this week. Very cool. They can scale the wall, storm the gate, or bribe the guard. Bribe the guard. Yeah, they're going to find a 4th way. They're going to do something that you're not ready for. They always do. I was just reading up on the primal druids from the Adventurer's Backpack. If I understand correctly, they can cast any druid spells at all up to their daily allowance without having to choose in advance. Primal druids need not prepare their spells, but they are limited to casting a certain number of spells per day, which may be improved by bonus spells. Yeah, the idea behind the primal druid is, and I love, Mark Sandy actually created the concept. He wrote the original character that came out as a D20 variant? No, prestige class. As a D20 prestige class. Now I've kind of cleaned it up and converted it to Castles and Crusades, but cleaned up is not the right word. I made it fit the CNC genre. But I love the idea. Mark said once we were gaming or whatever, and he said the druid's role in the natural world is not to defend nature against people. The druid's role is to defend people against nature, because nature is an unforgiving, uncaring, unknowing thing. And I love that concept. It just tied in exactly with the way I see the natural world. And we live in Tornado Alley. The tornado could give a flying shit whether you invested in your 401k or not. It literally doesn't even know. It has no concept that you even exist. So the forces of nature are powerful, and they're dangerous, and they're deadly, and we wanted that to spill right into the primal druid. And that's kind of what, when you look at, I'm literally, while I'm sitting here talking, I can see all these birds. We got 10 inches of snow, and I put bird feeders around, so the birds have plenty to eat, and they're beating the hell out of each other to get to this food. They don't care. And there's instantaneous reaction, and I like that concept, and that's how the primal druid is conceived. And so, yes, command feature, correct. They get to yank the spells now, as a CK, I don't let them think very long. They've got to react quickly, because that's how the primal instincts work. You should run a game at Gary Con with a smaller party. I'm thinking 6 players max. Since this is supposed to be a question, why don't you do that? There you go. Generally speaking, now, the virtual cons are going to be different. But generally speaking, I'm so busy at Gary Con that it's tough for me to get away and run multiple games. We're trying to kind of move the company to the point that I'm not in the booth or so involved with that stuff. And we were getting there before COVID and all that crap. And I think once we recommence the in-person, I'll be able to run a couple of more games. I think one year I ran 2 small games and my 1 big game. But it's mostly a business thing. We got to get me out of it. Let's see. There are so many things. Lord Geek Preacher 2, Lord Davis. There are so many things you can put in the shrine for those who are in the know. Rations that don't decay, healing bandages, water. And the paladin has to make sure he has the items to put in the shrine and work with the clerics in order to understand the hidden places that weary travelers would know to find. I love that concept. I love the idea. That's a great idea. Not only just a shrine, but a shrine that aids people. That's very cool. The Roadside Shrine is a great idea. It also plays well with the PC's rural starting point in this particular frame. And similar to other uses, quiet sign of defiance, a calling card, etc. Yeah, very cool. Hello, Clever. How's it going? Yeah, I love that concept. I'm going to have to somehow do something with that. I don't know. I love the concept. I just ordered a pizza, thinking it would be quicker than making dinner before the game. My delivery time is 2 hours. You might want to unorder that Kinko, sir. Yeah, everything is slow. I'm not sure where you are, but everything is slowed down here. I didn't get my pizza this past week. The idea, it took me, Todd and I had to run payroll out to my wife's office, and it took about a 15-minute drive. It took us about an hour to get out there. Just drifting along. The idea of little caches and supplies is a beautiful idea, especially when you're trying to establish new things. Yeah, I think that I have to. Big Preacher, that is fantastic. I just absolutely love it. Oh, we're doing a raffle? Did we announce a raffle? Did I miss something? We are doing a raffle at some point today. I'm assuming it has begun. Yes, so the raffle has begun. So put in ! raffle and you're good to go. Let's see. So this is where I start missing comments. While I don't play clerics in games, I have all kinds of ideas for how to have fun with clerics and paladins in a game focused on religious history in college and seminary doesn't hurt our ideas. Yeah, Geek Preacher, we still need to do one of these Ask Me Anythings or a GM Trick to the Trade where we talk about religion and gaming, not religion and gaming, but you know what I mean. the religious facet of RPGs. I think that would be fantastic. I'm a huge, like you, I'm a huge fan of paladins, clerics, and bringing all of that into the game. It's just very cool. See, I haven't seen you geek preach in a long time. It's too long. It's too long. There you go. So I just want to throw this down here. I am reading The Lord of the Rings, about done. I'm in the Scouring of the Shire, very end of the Return of the King. I'm thoroughly enjoying this chapter. In my head, I haven't read the trilogy in about 10 years. Very, very much enjoying Scouring of the Shire. In my head, it's always I don't want to read this part. It's just the story's over. I'm really enjoying it. I think I'm enjoying how decisive the hobbits are. Very cool. I would love to be a part of that conversation and to be there for that stream. Yeah, we need to. Yeah, I'm just waiting for the call, Steve. I'm not going anywhere. Yeah, we need to get with Chuck and hook this up, figure out how we want to do it, and then we just do it. You can put it up on TikTok. I have not got my TikTok. I'm going to start saying it like that. TikTok. I have not got my TikTok set up. Davis was supposed to do it. Password didn't work. I don't know what the hell happened. But now I hadn't talked to him in 2 days because he jammed a stake in his eye and he can't see. Or, I don't know what the hell's going on up there. But but I lost Davis. So we don't have a TikTok account yet. I second the GMTT on religion. Clerics, Steve, do you use spheres domains in your games? Do you have other than have their own spell list? I do not use those, actually. And I'm really, because I play most when I run a game, it's always in the world of Aird. Occasionally Greyhawk, but mostly Aird. And it's a pantheistic religion there, the polytheistic religion there. I encourage players that can have a patron deity, but to call upon all of the deities to sacrifice, especially the cleric. There's no real particular reason for you to just be a god of Amanut. If you are, that's great, that's fine. But you've got to recognize that Ҭેփնուտ is the god of rivers, and when you're crossing a river, you might want to make a sacrifice to Ҭેփնուտ. I don't really do domains in that regard, as in spells and whatnot, but they play in that. For instance, if you make an Omut, you might want to pay attention. If you make a sacrifice to Ҭેփնուտ before you get in the river, I'll frequently give you a +1 on your swim check. Anything like that. I say that to Omut because he's drowned like 3 times in my game. So, anything like that. So it's sort of a domain thing, but it's not really a spell list driven domain thing. Yeah, I'll rattle Chuck's cage too. Any idea why the Outpost is the second most popular TLG item on Drive Thru RPG after Player's Handbook? What about that adventure makes it so popular? I had no idea it was it was the second. That's so strange. Who wrote the Outpost? I think I wrote the Outpost. Me or Kim Hartsfield wrote that. I'm not sure. I think I wrote that. Damn, I always play atheist-like characters. There you go. We have found the source. It's not the armor in the water or the water itself. It's the nature of the player. God, character. Whatever. That one went viral. That's very weird. With all the Dr. Pepper that you drink, and I drink way too much Dr. Pepper. With all the Dr. Pepper you drink, why aren't you fat? Because I'm fat. I have no idea. I have a high metabolism that I know, and I'm constantly moving. I am absolutely constantly moving. My last setting I designed was focused on a religious reformation. That's very cool. The old gods were worshipped by druids and orders of rangers. The new gods were championed by clerics and paladins, a holy war ensued. And the new gods were the victors, clerics and paladins. And the new gods do not differentiate between magic users and druids, deeming them all heretics simultaneously. Echoes the witch trials of England and the explosion of Christendom in early medieval Europe. That's very cool. I love that concept. I love the concept of religious wars and religious conflict in RPGs. I think it's very, very cool. Fate always steals my fate. It is the way it is. Yeah, you roll like I do. I roll horribly. When I'm a player, I die all the time because I roll horribly. It's good when I'm running games because I also roll horribly there too. But as a player, you can have fun of those as well. I have ideas with playing atheists in a religious campaign because I'm cold-hearted. There you go. Yes, now in the world of Aird and atheist, you can't be an atheist because the gods they really physically manifest, in front of you. Yeah, it's one of those tough things. And it's not to mean that you have to pay any attention to the gods. You don't. The dwarves pay almost no attention to the gods. The Enochians, the whole human tribe of the Enochians, pay little attention to the gods. In fact, as a creature, I never play atheist characters. Religion nearly always plays a very important part of my games. I really do think it's when you're looking at Greek, obviously, I think Greek and Norse mythology will all of us are most, aware of or whatever. It adds this layer of the opposite of realism, surrealism. No, fantasy, I suppose, is a better word for it. It adds this layer of fantasy that's really cool. This idea that Aphrodite can whisper in your ear and suddenly you're shooting your bow. I don't know Greek mythology very well. I don't think Aphrodite was the archer. Who was the archer? Apollo? Or the sun god? I don't know. I read more Norse stuff than I do. I should have stuck with the Norse. But at any rate, the gods can actually have an impact upon your actions. Faith is in the factor of CNC. We can scientifically prove the gods are real. Yeah, they're going to walk over you as they. But, interestingly, I had to explain to these young guys that I'm running. When they're there's a whole bunch of machinations going on where they're trying to bring some of these ancient gods to air, these Valor, Kun, Mordias, and Oradul back to the world. And when they come, the gods are going to hardly, if they even notice these players, they're not going to, they'll notice them on that level of awareness, but they're going to have nothing to do with it, probably. They don't care. All of these people running around, these 18th level people running around, are really nothing more than a rather aggressive rat to one of the Valor Raccoons. So, if I saw a rat, I'd probably kill it, but I might not. Who knows? Looks like we have a winner for the $20 off. Who won? I don't know. Johnny Nomad. Johnny Nomad, you have won. Very good. I'm not sure how you're supposed to get that. Apparently, Tim is going to email you. Or you're supposed to email Tim at tim@troller.com, and he'll take care of you. Good deal. Artemis was the goddess of the hunt. That's who I was thinking of. Artemis, not a Aphrodite was the goddess of love and beauty, I think. Artemis was who I was thinking of. Artemis was the goddess of the hunt, so I think she's what you're looking for. Yes, indeed. When you lost my train of thought. Artemis. Oh yeah, there was a comic book named Artemis, right? It was a Wonder Woman spinoff, and she was Wonder Woman's Diana's buddy, I think. Something like that. Did you see that Vikings book I posted? I have not. If you did it on Discord, I haven't been to Discord in a couple of days. I will actually be heading over there tonight to poke around. I'll check it out. I tell you, I read a lot of Viking history, and it's very frustrating because most of it is anthropological and archaeological history, which I understand why. I completely understand that most of our source material is either, it comes from religious houses or comes from archaeology stuff. We just don't know that much about the Vikings at the end of the day. But what I would like to see is a really good history written of their raids and their warfare in the West. We hear about it all the time. And these histories that I've got, I got about 10 or 15 of them. They talk about it. They'll devote a whole chapter to the wars on France. But what I'd like to see is a chronological history of the Vikings' war on Western Europe, from Scotland all the way down to the Mediterranean. This would be fascinating to me, and to write as much as we know about it, and understanding that some of those battles are going to have very little about it, or some of those conflicts. We're just not going to know that much. But it would be interesting to read, I guess, a military history of the Vikings. But I have not yet found one. So if you find one clever, throw it up. I'm running a 7th level CNC campaign. The Ranger is absolutely dominating with his checks. He's making the vast majority. I told him it's great to be a hero and making the yeah. That's the problem in my game. The Rangers always start rolling a lot. I'm going to need Norse recommendations eventually. You already know. I'll put up what I've got. Some of them are good. Like I said, some of them, they're all good. I don't want to detract from any of these writers and historians. They've done a great job, but it's not really always what I'm looking for. But I'll definitely throw them up on the Discord over here. One campaign idea I have is for a group of elves, dark elves, be wary and fearful of humans, because they have a prophecy that one day the humans will make the world turn into a sphere and destroy the sun god and replace them with a giant ball of flaming death. That's a bad ending there. That would certainly motivate them to go do something without a doubt. Now, I love the idea of elves. I should say this. I'm trying to recast them in my mind the way a creature who is actually immortal would think. That's what I'm trying to do with the elves. I want to better understand their conversion to Christianity. There's probably going to be more on that than what I'm looking for. But because it really begins to change with one of the Harold Finehair, I can't remember. Whichever Norwegian, there was a Dane and then a Norwegian that converted their kingdom to Christianity, and it changed things. It changed things a lot. Being of Icelandic heritage, it's interesting to the differences between what my grandmother used to tell me about Vikings versus what the Anglos heard her say about Vikings. Yeah, I think one of the things, and this is kind of contrary to what I'm looking for, and the reason that many of these histories are written that don't focus on the warfare with Western, it's so very, very frequently forgotten that the Vikings actually were settlers as much, if not more so, than raiders. They settled the coasts of England, the coasts of Scotland. They settled the Faroe Islands, Iceland, obviously Greenland. We're relatively certain now that we've got evidence that they were in North America, and this is just from sites that we have found. So there's no telling in a society that used primarily wood and sod what just is gone. Is just gone forever. In those days, of course, Greenland wasn't under sheets and sheets of glacier ice. It was much more habitable. So it's very interesting to me that that's another thing I'll say. But the Vikings were settlers easily as much as warriors stomping around. You should read Tree of Salvation, Yggdrasil, and the Cross of the North by. There you go. Geek Preacher's got it for you. Clever, check that one out. Let's see, I feel like I can't get what I'm looking for in Vikings. I'm right there with you, Clever. Always listen to your grandmother. Absolutely always listen to your grandparents. Grandmother and grandfathers, even if they're crazy, they're going to have something. There's wisdom. There's germs of wisdom somewhere in all of that stuff. Now, you know this as you get older. You just know more things. They know they have stores of information. And the most important piece of information that they have is that they know that you aren't going to listen to them. So you've got to get the information down there. Let's see. Oh, yes. So did she feel anyone not Icelandic was an Anglo? Or does that refer to more specific groups? There you go. An Anglo was a non-Scandinavian European. Any chance of an update on various VTTs, Fantasy Grounds, update, Foundry, integration with World Anvil, and Shard? Okay, so we're going to end with this. This is about time to wrap up, so that's a great hi-ho, oh what? So the Fantasy Ground stuff, we finally got it moving again. There were some miscommunications with the folks, the great folks over at Fantasy Grounds, but Chuck and I worked through all of that, and our developer now has plunged back into getting the rule set redone, and we're going to release this rule set in bits and pieces so that it's still playable. There will be a way for everyone to update their files. I believe I think we've worked on through all of those issues. So Fantasy Grounds is a go and is moving forward. We are a part of the Shard Kickstarter that is ongoing right now. I think it's still got 8 days, maybe 9 days left. So definitely go over and check out Shard. They're going to be releasing a lot of aired material and a lot of it'll be for 5th edition, but you'll have aired all wrapped up into Shard. Now, I'm not certain what their time frame is. I do know that you can already download A0 for 5th edition over there and start playing it. So they've definitely got enough up and running that it's a part of it. Now, as for Foundry, I absolutely have no information on where we are on the Foundry integration. These things, this is the digital side of the world is Tim's and Chuck's stuff, and I get reports about every 10 days or so, and we haven't actually talked about Foundry in a while, in about a month. So when we know something, we'll let you know. But we are moving forward, and we're really hoping that by summer this stuff is roaring again, and we can really pump a lot of resources into it. I know on my end that I'm getting constant art requests from Chuck and Tim to get art for tokens over in these things, and then I have to bug Peter or Zoe or Jason. I have discovered through all of this that we do not have enough pictures of orcs, goblins, gnolls. There's another one. I can't remember what it is. Bugbears? Maybe it's bugbears. I can't remember. An immortal would think very slowly. The older we get, the faster our perception of time becomes. 1 hour is an eternity. To a 4-year-old, to an adult, an hour is gone in an instant. To an ancient being, they might zone out for a moment, and the next thing they know, all these mortals who live in the little town down the road have died of old age. So let me just throw this out, King Kong. I have not matured this thought. I did a long time ago, but I forgot it. So in thinking about Tolkien's elves and how they cultivate the world, so if you think of Galadriel and Lothlorien, and you've got these trees that they've grown and they've harbored and all of this stuff and shaped into these things. So I got to thinking that an immortal is really like a gardener. They pay attention to their garden. They know that certain things require an extraordinary amount of attention and focus and all of these things to get the garden to where they are. So now take that garden and expand it over millennia. Would they be, as you're describing them, or would they be actually more concentrated? Would they be more focused on doing things because they're trying actually? I mean, if I was an immortal being, would I just sit around and kind of watch things? Or would I take my immortality and try to shape the environment around me into something more meaningful for myself and more useful? So that's kind of how I'm beginning to look at immortal creatures a little bit differently. I like the idea. Like I said, I just read the trilogy, so it's all over my head. I just read the passage in Mordor when they're running out of food, they're going to Mount Doom, and the only thing they got left is the way bread from Lothlorien, and they have discovered that, or I don't know if they discovered it, Tolkien describes it, the more you eat, the less food that you have, and the more way bread that you have, the more you rely upon the way bread, the more filling it is. And I thought to myself, because we're all game designers, right? That's what we do. I thought to myself, how do they make it? How do they make something that actually responds better to a single use as opposed to something, mixing it with other stuff? And no answer. There's no answer. And Tolkien never wanted to give you an answer. It's magic, though the elves in themselves don't call it magic, whatever you want to call it. But I like the idea of the elves in Middle-earth, immortal creatures, are able to withdraw the virtues of things, to pull out the virtues of things, to enhance the virtues of things. And I just like that concept, as opposed to one who's the other side to things is Michael Moorcock's The Dancers at the End of Time, which is kind of what you're leaning towards. It seems to me the dancers at the end of time are humans who've gained immortality, and they just sit there. They drink and they party and they philosophize, and there's all this kind of gobbledygook floating around in their heads. Not gobbledygook, but this existentialism probably. But would I, as an immortal creature, wander down the road of philosophical inquiry, or would I actually try to find the virtue in the world around me and shape that world? We shape our houses, we shape our yards, we shape everything around us. Wouldn't I do that to the world around me? That's kind of how I'm looking at elves in the world of Erd, that they just have a different outlook on it. So they actually are highly focused, very intense creatures, and they don't necessarily, those humans and dwarves and stuff that kind of pass through their immortal lives are part of their tools to shape the world within which they live. And that's just kind of where my head is these days. Green Lantern, how's it going, Green Lantern? Good to see you. We're back to log off. And to answer your question, Clever, I'm fixing to jump back into Native American history. I've had the Cheyenne Indians on my head for quite a while. I'm going to finish up Lord of the Rings probably tonight or tomorrow, and then I've got a whole bunch of histories in there, and I'm going to just, I absolutely love reading Native American history, and not the more modern history that kind of focuses on oppression or whatever. I want to know the Native Americans as the Native Americans were in their prime, in the 15, 16, 1700s, and on up through the Indian Wars. I absolutely love the history of these peoples. And the Cheyenne are fucking awesome, Plains tribes. They're just dog soldiers, all of that stuff. They, of course, are the ones with the gigantic. They had the huge feathers upon it when they went to war. So I'm going to dive into that. I even as a child, I loved the imagery of Native Americans mounted with their weaponry and fighting, very rarely with saddles. That's a cool thing. Just badass. They're just badass. Let's see. Maybe these different ideas of immortality could represent different factions of races. That's a good way of doing it. Everybody's different, right? We all don't mold the world around us. Some people just don't give a crap about their yard. They don't give a crap about their yard. Right, mow it, move on, or don't mow it, whatever. So there's definitely a huge there's room for all of it. There's definitely room for all of it. And that's a good point, Cabinet Commander. That's a good point. We so often want dwarves or elves or whatever to be kind of centric in one direction. Maybe it doesn't have to be that way. Or people are batshit crazy all over the place. Maybe they could be like that. Though I do kind of like, I kind of like the idea. You look at a lion, say you take a lion, and a lion, any one lion is going to act much like any one other lion. There's differences, obviously, but not a lot. They have instinctive drives and stuff like that. And I like the concept of demi-humans being in that vein. The human is that evolutionary train or that mythologically created creature that has a multifaceted nature. They're good, they're evil, they're this, they're that. But elves or dwarves or gnomes, they evolved in a different way, or were created in a different way with a more focused, a more defined element to it. So I kind of like, that's probably a lot of more cops coming out. I like the humans being agents of chaos, and I don't mean that in a negative sense. There's just chaos around them. There's nothing particularly defined, but demi-humans slightly more defined. I'm getting deep into African history. Those Kushites were hardcore. Oh yeah, I love it. I did last year. I read a whole, that was modern African history from 1600s and up. It's absolutely fascinating. The continent is fascinating, and there's just not enough history over here in English that's good and that you can get into and really kind of dissect this gigantic continent that's got 2,000 language groups or some craziness like that. It is a huge, multifaceted land mass with talking about factions of people with mostly facets, just multifaceted tribal groups, national groups, all that. Very cool. All right, yeah, we're gonna get another 6 inches tonight, I think. 6 inches in Albuquerque. There you go. The pizza's out for delivery. There you go. Can't get worked out for you. All right, with that, we're going to wind down with Ask Me Anything. If you have not already, please give us a follow. We surely do appreciate it. I'll be back on Thursday, assuming that we have power. I'll be back on Thursday at 4 o'clock, and then I'm running a game in Lord 𝚃𝚘𝚕𝚕's Underdark this weekend. Mine is from 4 to 7, so join us there. With a lot of you guys are going to be sitting at the table with me. And it'll all be online here at Twitch, at Lord 𝚃𝚘𝚕𝚕's, and all of this other stuff. So definitely check all of that stuff out. Thank you all for showing up. Geek Preacher Delius Commander, Steel Grimper, I don't know how to say that, DM Terminal, Over Magnus, Kadora, everybody, Zandri. You guys have a great rest of your week. Keep safe, stay warm. And if you're in Texas, I have no advice for you, but I hope you get your power back soon. It's absolutely nuts down there. All right, everybody, you have a great evening. I'm going to go find some grub.